For 13 years, I've regularly checked the satellite images of a disturbing house on Google Maps. I won't tell you where to look, unless you want something terrifying to look back at you. When I first spotted the house in 2012, however, it wasn't disturbing. It was curious, like me. I don't remember why I was absent-mindedly scrolling across that British village, sparsely populated and near nondescript. What I do remember is the reason I stopped on a particular garden behind a detached house, which stood adjacent to a few vast acres of farmland. A long T-shaped shadow was pinning the lawn. It looked, to my eyes, like an oversized scarecrow. For the sake of visibility, most satellite images are snapped when the sun is at its highest, meaning shadows are at their shortest. You'll rarely see people walking out and about, and even if you do, their shades won't give them away. Could have been a person standing with arms outstretched. Then again, something about my scarecrow hypothesis didn't sit well either. In any case, I was a teenager at the time, and my interests were fickle. Forgot about the whole thing for years. But in 2016, my friend and I were talking about the many unanswered internet mysteries floating around, and I recalled that very personal mystery of my own from 4 years later. I showed my friend the house on Google Maps, and it was even curiouser than the first time. There were two shaped shades. The original was as long as ever, and the new one was half the height of the first. Very odd shadows, Oliver admitted. And it's just a residential house, not part of the nearby farmland. So why would the homeowner need scarecrows? I don't remember how I responded. The conversation took a detour into something else, thanks to the liquor incapacitating my thought processes. It wasn't until 2019 that my friend brought up the intriguing house again, so we Googled it once more. And again, the garden had changed. The second shadow had grown to the height of the first shadow. Something about the oddness of it all left me, for the first time in 7 years, quite afraid. I saw in his wide eyes that Oliver felt the same. He quickly played off his discomfort, but I noticed his momentary lapse of cool-headedness, noted the hesitation which had preceded his stilted, unnatural laugh. I just didn't quite understand why we were both so afraid of two shadows. Baby Scarecrow was all grown up, he said. I didn't respond. 30 seconds later, Oliver held up his phone, displaying Google Maps, and said, 52 minutes. I clocked the blue line dotting a route from his apartment to the countryside house, nearly an hour away, and I raised an eyebrow. You're not serious. I am, he insisted. We've been talking about this place for years. Don't you want to know what's in that back garden? I shook my head. Not anymore. There's something off about that image, Oliver. He groaned. Oh, come on, Jamie. I know it's left an unscratched itch at your brain. I know you. We are not going to drive across the country to spy on somebody's garden, I said. Well, I am, and I love your company, Oliver replied, shrugging. There's only so much a bird's eye view reveals, and street view won't let us peek over those obnoxiously tall hedges. We need to see the place in person. I feel as though I may have stepped out of my body for an hour or so. Let someone else take the reins. Where I only realized that I'd been coaxed into accompanying my friend as his car rolled to a stop outside that famous house from Google Maps. No longer seen as a flat roof and garden from a bird's eye view, but as a three-dimensional, horribly real structure. The unassuming red-bricked residence was surrounded by 8 feet tall hedges, countryside, and silence. There had been other cottages dotted along the winding country lanes, here and there, but it did nothing to cut through the area's oppressive, all-consuming silence. Something about seeing the property in the flesh left my hairs tingling. Left me ready to wrangle the steering wheel out of Oliver's grip and take us far away from that tall-walled place. And its hedges prompted an obvious question from my lips. Unless you've brought stilts, how are we going to peek into this garden? Oliver smiled as he opened the driver's door, so I followed him to the boot of the car. He'd always been more of a show-to-tell bloke. Inside the car's boot was a drone. Please, no, I inwardly groaned. I hated the thought of snooping on a stranger's property with an airborne camera. Then again, scaling the fence and trespassing would have been worse, so I nodded my head, signaling that I go along with Oliver's harebrained plan. He quickly took the drone up into the sky, and we watched the live feed on his tablet controller as the white, plated plastic insect sailed loudly above the house, rotors blurring against the sky. Oliver took the device over the roof tiles, and we both held our breath as the garden came into view. Then we exhaled in harsh, painful gasps of shock at the revealed casters of the long shadows I had seen in the photos for 7 years. Not scarecrows at all. 2 humans were tied with thick, well-knotted rope around their wrists and legs to large wooden crosses, perhaps. As much as the thought horrified me, crucifixes. My friend and I did not scream, but instead fell very silent, very still. There is no trauma quite like shock. No horror quite like being frozen to the spot, unable to think, unable to run, and the terror of what we were seeing would only worsen as my friend decided, with unsteady fingers, to fly the drone downwards, taking it closer to the 2 bound people in the garden. One was an adolescent boy, wriggling weakly in restraints as his eyes fixed on the drone, filming him from above. He wore a white tee with 5 letters torn through its fabric, torn through to the flesh, creating blood-stained letters on his torso. Spawn. Oh God, I moaned in terror, slumping against the car with teary eyes on Oliver's tablet screen. We have to call someone. On the original cross, which I'd seen 9 years earlier, was a woman who barely looked like a woman at all. Her arms and legs poking out of holes in dungarees were nothing more than bundles of straw. Oliver and I finally broke free of our frozen states, beginning to retch as we realized that the captive woman was very much alive, but very much limbless, save for upper arms, around which ropes were tightly wrapped, cut through both her clothing and the skin beneath, in much the same way as the squirming boy beside her, was another blood-written word. Whore. Oliver opened his lips, managing only to hiss out a whispery, wordless puff. Before he managed to try again, thunder cracked the air, followed by the live feed cutting out and the sight of the drone plummeting past the far side of the house, landing in the garden. That thunderous sound was only heard in the true boonies of England. A gunshot. And moments later, my eyes caught the silhouette of a broad, bulky man behind the paper-thin curtains of the house's upstairs window. The drapes parted, and out peeked a double-barreled instrument and a hand reaching for the window's latch. I screamed in fear at Oliver. Move. As clambered in the car, the sound of plastic squeaking filled my ears. I didn't have to look up to know what would be pointing at us from that open window. Oliver floored the accelerator, and I half expected his side window to suddenly shatter, expected my best friend's body to collapse in a pool of blood against the steering wheel. However, there came no gunfire. We drove away. What the frick? Oliver bellowed minutes later, spittle and tears and snot flying from his horrified face. I managed only to sob in response. My friend pulled into a petrol station 20 minutes later, and while I said that we needed to phone the police, he claimed that we should go back to the house first, that we should be brave. Oliver was worried that the homeowner had chosen not to follow us because he needed to dispose of all the evidence. Then my friend suggested that we had a limited window in which to go back and record some evidence of what the man had done. You watch too many crime programs, I pleaded, panting heavily. This is the real world, Ollie. In the real world, you see a crime, then you call the police. That's how it works. Anyhow, after much back and forth, my friend managed to dupe me into thinking that he was on board with my plan of simply leaving it to the authorities. But while I went to the petrol station to pay for our freshly filled tank, Oliver tore away and left me behind. I tried to call him numerous times over the following hour or so. I rang the police and told them what had happened. To give credit where it's due, the authorities took my claim seriously and searched the homeowner's property. However, as Oliver had feared, the responding officers found nothing in the stranger's garden. No crucified, straw-stuffed victims, no carcass of a drone, no shotgun shell, nothing to validate my tall tale. The homeowner, a man named Mr. Tomlinson, told the police that he had seen neither a drone nor 2 men outside his property. I showed the police a satellite image on Google Maps, and Mr. Tomlinson simply laughed. He said that the image was at least a year out of date, that he'd gotten rid of those statues months earlier. Yes, statues. Apparently, this was a sufficient explanation for the police officers. Obviously, there were plenty of ways to corroborate my story. The police checked the surveillance footage at the petrol station, saw Oliver and I standing by the pumps, then saw him drive away while I was in the shop. See, I protested. You weren't saying you were lying, Jamie. One police officer insisted. We simply need evidence. I pointed at the screen. There's your evidence. We drove out here together, and now he's gone. Look, this was only a few hours ago. The two of you were clearly arguing. Seems like your friend just needs to cool off. One of the officers suggested. He promised to look into Oliver's disappearance once the appropriate amount of time had passed. Well, 48 hours later, when he still hadn't shown face, the police took me more seriously. However, days, then weeks, then months went by. No sign of him. And the authorities failed to find any evidence suggesting that Mr. Tomlinson had been keeping people captive in his garden. No evidence of prisoners anywhere on his property. Then came the pandemic, and the world had bigger problems. Nobody believed my story, no matter how many times I talked about the Google Maps image and the drone, and what the two of us had seen. Eventually, I researched the area surrounding Mr. Tomlinson's house, an area including surrounding hamlets and farms, all forming a tightly knit community. From news articles, I learned that a woman and a farmer went missing in 2011, and that got me thinking. So I managed to infiltrate a Facebook group for the local area, pretending that I'd bought a property in the area. They let me join. You wouldn't believe the things to be learned from a private Facebook group. That's where the village gossip lives in the 2020s. I learned that this local farmer had been a widow for 3 years before finally meeting someone new in 2010. Someone from the next county over. Plenty of folk didn't like this, and they adored his wife. And to make it worse, as one Facebook user commented, this new woman was an out-of-towner. I shared this information with investigating police officers. They were aware of the missing persons cases, obviously, but that was about all I got out of them. They stonewalled me, much as they had with Oliver. And that left me with a gnawing feeling in my gut. Given that they lived in the area, I started to fear that they might be part of this tightly knit community too. Started to fear that they weren't much fussed about digging too deeply into the area's disappearances. Started to fear that they might even be culpable. Of course, many things didn't add up. Oliver and I had seen a woman and a boy in that garden. Not a woman and a man. Still, there had to be something to this coincidence. I was certain of it. For a little while, I even considered breaking down lockdown rules and returning to Mr. Tomlinson's property, doing my own investigation. But then came, in 2020, a series of haunting notes through my letterbox. I watched too. Nobody will ever find them. Don't come back. You'll come forth. I became an agoraphobe. Became too terrified to go looking for Oliver. I would have broken lockdown rules for my old friend in a heartbeat, but the possibility of meeting Mr. Tomlinson again, the haunting man who nearly killed us from his window, was a nightmare too great to bear. Call me a coward if you must, but ask yourself what you would do in such a situation. Every day I check my windows, expecting to see that stranger watching me from the driveway or the back garden. I have no idea how he found out where I lived. In early 2023, just as my phobia of the outdoors showed signs of somewhat abating, I thought about a particular word in that third and final note. Fourth. I had previously thought it to be a misspelling. I assumed Mr. Tomlinson had intended to write, "You'll come forth," but a new possibility popped into my head. When I returned to Google Maps once again, the last vestige of hope abandoned my body, and dread took its place. In the latest satellite image of Mr. Tomlinson's house, 3 T-shaped shadows painted the grass. I know who the third must be, but I'm still, 2 years later, too frightened to return to see for myself. Too frightened that I'll become the 4th shadow in the garden. More straw than man. We robbed a gas station, and the cashier smiled the whole time. It was 2 years ago. We were heading out on holiday to a friend's house, driving through the middle of nowhere at night. Like always, we were talking about the most random, useless things. Oh my god, Val, you can't be serious. Are you really suggesting that we rob a convenience store? Why not, girl? I told you, they always get robbed and no one gets caught. Middle of the night, middle of nowhere. No way the pigs catch us. You can't be serious, Val. We're not robbing a store. We're not a gang. Chill a little, Jesse. Nothing's gonna go wrong. Are you two seriously talking about this right now? Tell them something, Roxy. And I wish I had stopped them right then, but instead, I joined in. Well, we only come to this world once, right? Like Raven said, what could go wrong, huh? Nothing, Val shouted, laughing. I can't believe you bitches. Don't be a crybaby, Jesse. Girl gang time, let's go. Girl gang, girl gang. We screamed as Val slammed the gas pedal. The dead air of the desert filled with our shouts. Before long, we pulled up in front of the store. Okay, but real talk, Raven said from the back seat. Lazily watching the desert blur by. What would y'all want written on your tombstone? Hot, Val said instantly, and loaded. I want mine to say, fuck around and found out. Jessie giggled, her anxiety forgotten for a moment. Mine just needs glitter, I mumbled, and maybe like an empty lipstick case next to it. We all laughed. Even Raven cracked a smile. I didn't know it yet, but only one of us was getting one. It was an old gas station store, straight out of every horror flick ever, complete with buzzing neon lights and a single flickering bulb above the pumps. The sign said, Midnight Market, in big faded letters, almost like a dare rather than a welcome. Jessie tugged nervously at her sleeves. Guys, I seriously don't have a good feeling about this place. Val rolled her eyes, shoving a pink ski mask into Jessie's hands. Relax, princess. We'll be in and out before they even know it. Raven stepped out of the car, calm as ever. Her dark eyes skimmed the empty lot, taking in the eerie quiet and the way shadows seemed to stretch a little too long around the corners of the building. You okay, Rox? Jessie whispered to me, her eyes huge and pleading. Girl, chill, I said, forcing a smile as I slid my mask down. We got this. Val marched up to the door first, practically dancing, a shiny revolver dangling from her fingers like it was part of her outfit. Raven followed, quiet and watchful, while Jessie hesitated just a second too long before stepping in behind her. I trailed last, stomach tightening. I caught our reflections in the glass door. We looked like girls. Just girls. But something about the storefront. It didn't look back. The door jingled like we were just four girls going on a candy run. Inside, it was too clean. Too cold. The kind of cold that sinks through your jacket and settles behind your teeth. Music drifted from somewhere above us, low and warped. A syrupy, old-school love song. Like something that should have been playing over the end of a prom. The kind of prom where nobody makes it home. I blinked, and for a second, I could have sworn the ceiling lights pulsed in time with the music. Near the window, an antique gumball machine stood still and gleaming, way too pristine for a desert dump like this. A metal tag was bolted to the glass. Do not touch unless you're hungry. That's weird, Raven muttered. The machine gave a soft click. We didn't touch it. The place was cold, freezing even, and silent enough to hear our shaky breaths. Everything was weirdly neat, shelves packed full of snacks, every item precisely lined up. Too perfect. Uncomfortably perfect. The cashier stood behind the counter, a tall, pale guy with eyes so dark they looked painted on. He didn't jump, didn't flinch, didn't blink, just stared at us, like he'd been waiting. Val pointed her gun at him. Hands up, hot stuff. Money. Now. He obeyed, but too slowly, too calm. His hands rose like he was performing, not surrendering. Then came the voice. Take it, he said. Almost a whisper. It's yours. The register clicked open by itself. No key, no touch. Just a soft metallic chime. We froze. Val glanced at me, then at the register, then back at him. Okay, well, shit. Guess this is happening. Jessie looked like she was about to cry. Guys, let's just go. I told you. Shut up, Val snapped. Ducking behind the counter. Something buzzed. The overhead lights flickered, just once. Then again, and again. Each flash stretched Sam's shadow longer, like he was growing toward us. Raven stood still, eyes narrowing. I could see her mouth moving, counting. Every fourth second, she said softly, It pulses. I turned toward the door, my gut twisted with the kind of dread that makes your hand shake without knowing why. And then I felt it. Not saw, felt. Shift in the air, like the walls inhaled. I grabbed the door handle. Locked. Of course it was locked. I jiggled it harder. Nothing. The bell above it chimed anyway, like it was laughing at me. Behind me, Jesse gasped. I think it's watching us. I passed the drink cooler and noticed smears, bloody handprints, faint but sticky, as if someone had tried to claw their way out from the inside. And the snacks. I paused. One bag read, Cassie-flavored popcorn. Another, Katie Crunch. I don't know a Cassie, or a Katie, but maybe someone had. Raven walked slowly down the nearest aisle, eyes narrowed suspiciously. She reached out, touching something behind a cereal box, and pulled her hand back sharply. Her fingers came away red. Blood, she whispered, horrified as she stepped back. There's blood on everything. Jessie gasped softly, stepping toward me, her hands reaching for mine. Roxy, please. Val cut her off, laughing nervously, too loudly, as she swung back toward the cashier. So, hot stuff, got a girlfriend? He tilted his head, eyes glittering like obsidian, and leaned toward her slowly, deliberately. His voice a velvety whisper as his smile widened impossibly. You smell different when you're afraid. The words slid through the air like a blade wrapped in silk. I froze. Val didn't say anything this time. Her cocky grin faded just a little. The gun in her hand lowered. Not much, but enough. Raven went still. Jessie let out a quiet noise, like a swallowed scream. My breath caught hard in my throat, and for the first time, I really realized that we were trapped here, and we weren't alone. The lights above us flickered once. The soft song on the speakers warped, like the tape inside had melted. The walls didn't move, but they felt closer. The air tightened. I stepped back. Jessie whispered, I want to go. Roxy, I want to go. The hum of the freezer deepened, as if something was breathing behind it. Then Val snapped, fuck this, and sprinted to the windows. We ran after her like animals caught in a trap. Desperate, stupid, screaming. Jessie's fingers left foggy trails as she frantically slapped the cold panes. Break it, Val shouted, her voice cracking at the edges of her tough girl act. Raven didn't hesitate. She grabbed a metal rack, the one that had stupid souvenirs with smiley faces, and swung. The glass shattered, a rain of jagged crystals exploding outward, only to freeze mid-air and glide gently backward, reforming in perfect silence. Not a single crack remained. No way, Jessie whimpered, her voice tight with disbelief. She turned slowly toward us, her breath fogging visibly, the air colder than any gas station freezer should be. Did anyone else just see that? Yeah, I whispered, my mouth dry, my tongue a rough patch of sandpaper. The cashier chuckled softly behind us. The sound crawled into my ears, gentle and sickening, like honey mixed with blood. We turned together to face him, drawn by the gravity of his voice. He was no longer smiling politely. His grin was stretched impossibly wide, a raw gash carved into white skin, crowded by teeth that shouldn't fit in a human mouth. His eyes were two slick wells of blackness, shimmering darkly like spilled oil under fluorescent lights. Val's breathing came in short, angry bursts. What the heck are you? His voice, when it came, wasn't human. Not entirely. It echoed slightly, like it bounced around in a cave before finding its way out of his throat. Just your cashier, he said softly, spreading his pale, delicate hands in mock innocence. Doing my job. Helping you. Make choices. What choices? Jessie's voice was almost a sob. He tilted his head slowly, smoothly, unnatural as a doll. One girl walks out. Decide quickly, please. No, Raven said quietly, voice low, shaking her head firmly, stepping toward him. You can't trap us. Oh, sweetheart, he purred. It's already done. He raised one hand slowly, gesturing toward the wall of security monitors behind the counter. Grainy black and white footage flickered silently. Our eyes locked on the screens, watching shapes moving, familiar silhouettes of past victims. I saw girls panicked and violent, tearing each other apart like animals, the floor growing dark beneath them. Jessie stumbled backward, fumbling in her pocket, frantically pulling out her phone. Screw this, I'm calling the cops. The moment she pressed call, she screamed, high and ragged. The phone glowed a searing orange, smoke curling from her palm as she threw it on the floor. Her hand was blistered raw, skin bubbling painfully red. He laughed again, soft and syrupy. No outside calls, store policy. Valerie snapped. She lunged at him, her gun shaking in her outstretched hand. Fury overcoming fear. Let us go, asshole. The cashier only smiled wider, calmly, as though she'd offered him candy instead of threats. With barely a twitch of his eyes, something cracked sharply through the air, wet and sickening. Valerie's neck twisted violently. Her gun hit the floor first, then her knees, then her head rolled sideways like a snapped doll's. Too quiet, too fast. Like the store didn't just kill her, it collected her. Val, Jessie shrieked, voice breaking with raw panic, rushing forward to catch her limp body as it crumpled. My own scream stuck deep in my throat, choking on shock as Val's eyes fluttered open, wide and confused. Her lips moved slowly, mechanically, as if something puppeteered her broken body from the inside out. Choose one, she whispered sweetly, blood dripping down her chin, smiling like a doll whose strings had snapped. Choose one. Choose one. Jessie sobbed violently, holding Val's lifeless hand, her eyes streaming. I felt the cold seep deeper into my bones, crawling through my veins, thick and icy. I caught my reflection in the freezer door as I backed away from Valerie's twitching body. I wasn't smiling. I knew I wasn't, but the reflection was. Just a little. Just enough to show teeth. Raven stood paralyzed, horror etched onto her face. She barely moved as Val's corpse sat up slowly. Head tilted grotesquely sideways. The crackling of broken bones grinding together louder in the silence. Valerie looked right at me, eyes glassy but still full of knowing, as if death had told her some private joke we'd never understand. Her lips never stopped moving, gently repeating the same soft chant. Choose one. Choose one. Choose one. Jessie stumbled backward from Valerie's body, her breathing ragged, eyes wide and wild. Please, please just let us go, she sobbed, mascara running in thick black lines down her pale cheeks. She looked desperately at the cashier, then at me, grabbing my wrist hard enough to bruise. Roxy, we don't deserve this. I'll do anything, just make it stop. I'll clean it all up, I swear, she whimpered. I won't tell anyone. I just want to go home. Her pleas echoed in the cold air of the gas station, unanswered. Raven remained strangely quiet, kneeling slowly beside Val's corpse. Her hands trembled as she carefully closed Val's staring eyes. She whispered something under her breath, words low and secretive, urgent and familiar, like an ancient prayer. What are you doing? I whispered, fear knotting tight my chest. Raven didn't look up, instead frantically pulling salt packets from the snack aisle shelves, tearing them open with shaking fingers, and pouring a circle on the tiled floor around us. She murmured faster, voice wavering but determined, forming a shaky occult ring around Val's unmoving body. Protection, Raven hissed. Eyes desperate but focused. It might hold it back. It's supposed to. Jessie watched her, horrified disbelief twisting her expression. Are you serious right now? Magic, Raven? We need real help, not witchcraft. Raven ignored her, eyes squeezed shut in concentration, chanting softly. Her whispered words spilled out like black velvet ribbons, strange and unsettling. But as she finished the final word, silence dropped like an axe. Nothing happened. No protection, no escape. Just the cashier's quiet laughter floating over the aisles. Did you really think salt would help? His voice was amused, lightly mocking. This isn't a ghost story. Jessie screamed, raw frustration and panic echoing off the sterile white walls. Why are we still here? Raven, your stupid voodoo bullshit never works. It didn't even work when... She froze suddenly, words catching in her throat. Raven's eyes snapped open sharply, glistening darkly. When what, Jess? Raven's voice cut the silence sharply. Jessie's face went pale. Nothing, she whispered. Suddenly afraid. I didn't mean... Didn't mean what? Raven stood, fists clenched, voice dangerously calm. Didn't mean for me to know you had sex with my boyfriend? The air thickened around us, the silence oppressive, suffocating. Jessie recoiled, her gaze darting between me and Raven. Yet, it wasn't like that. Raven, please. No? Raven spat bitterly, voice venomous. Then what was it like? Did you just trip into his bed? Jessie's eyes filled again, tears spilling, voice shaking. Like you're any better. You stole from all of us. Money, makeup, everything. We knew it was you, Raven. We just didn't tell you because we felt bad. Raven froze, expression turning from fury to icy shock, eyes darkening with shame and anger. Shut your mouth, Jessie. Jessie didn't stop. Her fear had broken through to rage, eyes blazing, face twisting in unrecognizable fury. You think you're so innocent, Raven, but you're just a lying, stealing, fake little bitch. The tension snapped sharply between them, raw and violent. A soft whisper slid into my ears like hot breath, velvet and sinister. Kill them. Get out. It's easy. My stomach lurched sickly. The voice wasn't mine, yet it spoke from deep within my bones. I shook my head, desperate to silence the darkness brewing inside me. Around us, shelves rearranged subtly, impossibly, silently. Packets of razor blades, sharp scissors, kitchen knives, all appeared neatly, perfectly placed within arm's reach, inviting us, begging us. Jessie's eyes caught the gleam of a large kitchen knife first. She reached for it, trembling. Her innocent face. The girl who'd sketched soft hearts in her notebooks, distorted with something monstrous. Lips twisted, eyes gleaming with a sudden animal rage. She lunged for Raven, blade flashing in a silver arc. As they collided, Jessie's body slammed into a display rack. The glass gumball machine exploded, candy flying in every direction, bouncing off tiles, slick with blood. Music hits its chorus, some old-timey love ballad warped through hell. Blood sprayed against the freezer door in long, painterly streaks, glittering in the flickering lights. Raven barely had time to scream as Jessie tackled her, wild, relentless, brutally slashing. Jessie, I cried, horror squeezing my lungs like a vice. Stop. Jessie couldn't hear me, or wouldn't. Her movements were feral, unrecognizable, blade stabbing and twisting, teeth bared, eyes burning with a dark, obsessive fury. Blood spattered across her face, and she'd only screamed louder, angrier, triumphant. You never deserved him, Raven. Never. Raven's voice faded to a soft, choking gurgle, eyes wide and staring, life slipping away and scarlet pools beneath her. Jessie stood slowly, her breathing ragged, blade dripping. Blood streaked her cheeks, her chest heaving violently. She looked at me, her gaze feral yet pleading, trapped somewhere between horror and exhilaration. I had to, she whispered, her voice trembling, eyes glazed. I did it for us, Rox. Now he has to let us leave. Valerie's corpse smiled wider, softly whispering. Choose one. Choose one. Choose one. The cashier chuckled again, softly, watching us like an audience at a bloody play. His voice slithered out, smooth and deadly. Almost there, girls. Just a little more blood, and we'll have a winner. Raven lay on the floor, a broken doll sprawled across white tiles stained dark red. Her breaths came slow, ragged gasps echoing weakly through the too still air, a sound I'd never forget. Jessie stood a few feet away, clutching the knife, eyes hollowed out, staring at nothing, her sleeves soaked in Raven's blood, dripping in thick scarlet beads to the floor. Somehow in the chaos, Valerie's gun had found its way into my hands. It felt heavy, the cold metal pressing against my sweaty palm, grip slippery with fear and confusion. My breath shook, watching Raven's eyes struggle to focus on mine, filled with silent, desperate pleading. The cashier leaned comfortably against the counter, casually smiling like we were merely teenagers squabbling over candy, his eyes black pools absorbing the horror we'd created. "Well," he said gently, drawing out the word like a patient teacher, "we're almost done." "Please," Jessie whispered, dropping the knife suddenly, clattering loudly to the tile. She stepped toward me, shaking, leaving bloody footprints. "Roxy, I didn't mean it. You know that, right? He made me. I couldn't stop." My throat tightened. "Jessie, you killed her." I choked out, eyes stinging, glancing again at Raven, blood pooling steadily around her body. "You." "She betrayed us." Jessie's voice cracked wildly, desperate. "I did it for you, Roxy. For us." "Did you?" The cashier murmured softly, eyebrows raised in gentle skepticism. His voice slid between us like silken razors. "One bullet, one choice. That's the deal." Raven's voice, barely more than a whisper, slipped weakly into the silence. She coughed wetly, scarlet trickling from the corner of her mouth. Her gaze locked onto mine, fierce yet fading, eyes pleading with an unbearable truth. "You'll never leave, Roxy," she gasped, words trembling, shaking my bones. "He owns you now. He owns us all." Her head fell back, eyes fluttering, breath shallow and fading fast. "Don't listen to her," Jessie whimpered, eyes wild, stumbling forward. "Please, Roxy, it's you and me, like always. You promised." I raised the gun, heart hammering like a trapped bird in my chest, hands trembling violently. Jessie's eyes widened, lips forming a silent plea. Betrayed disbelief etched across her tear-streaked face. But as I met her gaze, something deep inside me shifted. A sudden, cold clarity spread through me. Dark, seductive, powerful. I felt calm. I felt nothing. No fear, no guilt. Only the chilling realization that her life was now mine to take or spare. And I liked it. Then I turned to the freezer again. My reflection was watching me, smiling wide now, red smeared across her mouth like lipstick. Behind me, in the freezer's reflection, I saw the others. Raven on the floor, Jessie still reaching for help, Val smiling too wide, and me, smiling like I had been doing it the whole time. And this time, I smiled back. "Rox," she began, choking on my name. I squeezed the trigger without hesitation. The blast echoed like thunder, deafening in the sterile air. Jessie fell silently, body collapsing like a puppet whose strings were cut, disbelief still frozen on her face. I lowered the gun, exhaling slowly. The room was still, for a single, suspended moment. Then the store erupted around me in soft, sinister applause. The shelves rattled gently, snack machines buzzing and humming like a cheerful audience, whispers and laughter rising from empty aisles. A twisted celebration, hidden voices cheering quietly from behind rows of candy bars, potato chips, and bottled drinks. "Well done," the cashier purred softly, eyes gleaming with twisted pride. He smiled warmly, as if congratulating a beloved student. I stared at Jessie's body, feeling nothing. No tears, no regret. The rush of control filled me, a dark, intoxicating thrill I'd never known before. Valerie's corpse smiled wider, twisted neck creaking grotesquely as she whispered softly, approvingly, "Chosen one. Chosen one. Chosen one." The cashier's eyes, blacker than midnight, met mine gently, knowingly, possessively. The silence in the store felt cleaner now, calmer, like he had finally exhaled. The cashier stepped around the counter, careful not to step in the blood. His smile had softened. Not smug, not cruel, just satisfied. "You won," he said gently, as if announcing a prize. "You can leave now." With a soft click, the glass door unlocked. The deadbolt slid back on its own, the bell above it chiming sweetly like it always had, as if none of this ever happened. I walked to the door slowly, still holding the gun, my fingers sticky with blood. I could see the black sky outside now, no longer that voidless blur. There were stars, the desert, freedom. But I stopped with my hand on the door. I didn't want to go. That's the part I hadn't expected. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't even angry. I felt light, electric, like something had cracked open inside me and all the worms crawling beneath had finally come out to stretch. I liked the way I felt. When Jesse begged, when Raven whimpered, when I pulled the trigger. Control, power. No more playing along. No more pretending to be the quiet one, the funny one, the glue in the group. They never saw it, but he did. He always did. The cashier gave me a nod like he already knew. He stepped aside. "It's yours now," he said, "if you want it. Every store needs a cashier." He walked through the door and vanished into the dark without a sound. I looked around once more, at the shelves that never ran out, at the freezer humming with something cold and alive, at the counter. Then I moved behind it, slowly, like I was taking my rightful place. The name tag sat waiting by the register. I picked it up. Sam. I pinned it to my shirt and smoothed my hair down. It didn't matter what it stood for. I already knew it was mine. Outside, a pair of headlights pulled into the lot. Dust swirled behind the car. 4 silhouettes inside. Girls. The bell jingled as the door opened, and I smiled. "Welcome to Midnight Market," I said sweetly. This is how OnlyFans ruined my life. The walls were closing in. $40,000 in student loans suffocating me. Instant ramen my only meal in a paper-thin apartment. The pandemic had crushed my barista job, leaving my bank account gasping at $12.37. I was treading water, barely, when the messages started. Random accounts, new ones every day, slipped into my DMs. "Start an OnlyFans, you'll get rich. Trust me," they urged. I thought they were bots, some creep's twisted prank, but the messages kept coming, sharper, like they saw through me. "Start an OnlyFans, it'll change your life, or end it," another account warned. I don't know why they shook me so bad. Maybe I was desperate, but when my landlord taped a 3rd eviction notice to my door, I caved. I wasn't stupid. OnlyFans meant burying myself, but I'd be careful. I created Avery, a version of me who was fearless and seductive. Nothing like Quiet Joe's, who faded into shadows. I dyed my mousy brown hair a deep crimson red, letting it fall in loose waves to my shoulders, and paired it with smoky eyeliner to make my eyes pop. I didn't stop there. I bought a few wigs to switch things up. A platinum blonde bob for a sultry vintage vibe, and a jet black pinstripe one that hit my waist for a more mysterious look. For outfits, I scoured thrift stores and online shops, picking things I'd never wear as Jose. A sheer black lace bodysuit that hugged my curves, a red satin slip dress with a plunging neckline, and a fishnet top with tiny silver studs that caught the light. I used clever angles and dim lighting to keep my face secret, focusing on my body, the way the fabric clung to my skin, or how my hair spilled over my shoulders. My first post, a shadowy shot of me in the red satin dress, kneeling on my bed with a blonde wig, got 50 subscribers overnight. By the week's end, I had 200, and the tips were unreal. $500, $800, $1,200. Every ping on my phone was a high, like I was finally someone. I paid rent, bought groceries, and got a new phone. I was flying. My content started simple but suggestive. A video of me slipping off the fishnet top, revealing a black bra underneath. My crimson hair going under the lamp. A photo set in the lace bodysuit, posing on my knees with my back arched. The platinum wig catching the light. A teasing clip of me running my fingers through the black wig. The satin dress slipping off one shoulder as I blew a kiss to the camera. I kept it flirty, but never too explicit. Always leaving them wanting more. Subscribers ate it up, begging for the next post, the next reveal. But the rush dragged something heavy. Comments turned hungry. "You're gorgeous," they started, but soon it shifted. "Give us everything," they demanded. If I didn't give in, they got nasty. "You're nothing without us," one subscriber sneered. I called them trolls until I noticed something worse. Subscribers started dropping details they shouldn't know. "Love your red hoodie today, Jose," one commented. "You look stressed at the library," another added. I never shared my real life. Never showed my face, but they knew. It started small, like coincidences, but soon it was every day. Love that coffee shop you go to, a subscriber wrote, mentioning my favorite spot. You left your apartment at 8:14 this morning, another pointed out. Were you humming that song on the bus? A third asked, naming the exact tune. My skin crawled, but I kept posting. I needed the money. Then he appeared. Username Collector J. No profile pic, just a void. You're perfect, Evangeline. You don't belong here. His first message read, too calm for comfort. My heart stopped. Evangeline wasn't my name. Nobody, not even my old roommates, knew about OnlyFans. I blocked him, but the next day, another account messaged me. You can't hide, Evangeline. I see you, it said. I deleted it and locked down every setting, but the messages kept coming, like he was wired into my phone. You owe me, Evangeline. Come back, Collector J wrote. They weren't just texts. They'd pop up in my notes app, my email drafts, and even my calculator history once. Just that name, Evangeline, over and over. Sleep became a ghost. My phone buzzed all night. Notifications from strangers who knew my routine, what I wore, where I ate. My apartment felt like a trap, like eyes were burning through the walls. I'd catch shadows in my peripheral vision, shapes that vanished when I turned. One night, I woke to scratching at my window. 4th floor, no way up. I yanked the curtain shut, shaking, but in the morning, white lilies sat outside my door. A note was tucked among the flowers. You looked terrified last night, Evangeline. I'm watching, it read. I tore it up and checked the locks, but the smell of those flowers lingered for days, like it was soaked into my skin. I didn't delete OnlyFans then. I should have, but the money was my lifeline, and I thought I could gut it out. I started filming in a corner of my apartment, away from windows, using a cheap backdrop to hide anything personal. It didn't help. The comments got weirder and more specific. Why'd you move the lamp, Jose? One subscriber asked. The green walls knew, another pointed out. I hadn't shown my apartment, not once, but they saw it. I stopped eating in my kitchen and stopped sleeping in my bed, curling up on the couch instead with the phone clutched like a weapon. Then the video hit. I logged in to check my tips and saw a post I didn't make. A blurry video shot from above my bed showing me sleeping. No wig, no filters, just Jose, laid bare, my real face exposed. The caption stood out. Evangeline unmasked. Mine, it read. Comments exploded. We see you now, one subscriber wrote. You're ours, another added. Come home, Evangeline, a third chanted, echoed by others. My subscribers spiked to thousands overnight, but their profiles were blank. Names, just numbers, all chanting that phrase. I watched the video again, hands shaking, trying to figure out how it was filmed. There was no camera in my room. No way anyone could have gotten in. But there I was, vulnerable, watched by thousands of eyes that weren't human. I deleted OnlyFans that day, hands trembling so bad I could barely tap the screen. I erased Avery, changed my email, my number, and my locks. I even threw out my laptop, thinking it was compromised. It didn't stop. Gifts started showing up. Earrings I'd browsed online, a notebook I'd lost in high school, and a photo of me at 16 from an angle I'd never seen. Like someone was standing over me. Each had a note. You're mine, Evangeline, the notes read. I burned the photo, but the next day, another appeared under my pillow. Identical, the ink still wet. I moved to a new apartment, thinking distance would help. The first night, I found a crack in my bathroom mirror, hairline thin, like it had been scratched from the inside. I covered it with a towel, but the gifts followed. A bracelet I'd never seen, a torn page from a 60s fashion magazine, and a key that didn't fit any lock I owned. My new phone, barely a week old, started glitching. Apps opening on their own, photos I didn't take filling my gallery, all of the mirrors reflecting nothing but darkness. Then Collector J texted my new number, one I hadn't shared. I have something you want, Evangeline. A video. Not yours. Hers. Do what I ask and I'll give it to you. Don't, and everyone sees your face again, he wrote. My stomach dropped. Another video. Hers. I didn't know what he meant, but the threat of my face being exposed again after that nightmare post was too much. He sent a photo next. A grainy still of a woman who looked like me, dressed in 60s clothes, her eyes wide with fear, standing in front of a mirror. Another text followed. She's why they watch you. First request. Find an old payphone. Call the number I send. Say her name 3 times. $500. I'll know if you don't, he instructed. I couldn't breathe. That woman, her face so close to mine, and the idea that she was tied to this, to me, made my skin crawl. I didn't want to do it, but the video he promised might explain who Evangeline was and why he was doing this. And if I didn't, he'd ruin me. Splash my face across the internet for those faceless subscribers to devour. So I went. I found a payphone, rusted and half dead, in a sketchy lot. The number connected to static, then a faint hum, like someone breathing. Evangeline, I whispered, my voice breaking as I said her name 3 times, then hung up. My phone buzzed, $500 in my account, and a text followed. Good. She heard you, Collector J wrote. The requests kept coming, each one weirder, each one tightening the knot in my chest. He texted again. Find a woman's scarf from the 60s in a thrift store. Wear it for a day. $700. I'll know if it's not hers, he demanded. I rummaged through musty shelves, found a silk scarf with faded flowers, and wore it. It reeked of old perfume, and all day I felt watched, like the fabric was choking me. When I took it off, my neck had faint red marks, like fingerprints. I tried to throw it out, but it was back in my closet the next morning, neatly folded. The payment came with another message. She liked it, Evangeline, he wrote. Another request followed. Take a Polaroid of yourself. Leave it under a streetlight at midnight. $900. Don't look back when you walk away, he instructed. I used a beat-up camera from a pawn shop, snapped the photo, and left it where he said. Footsteps echoed behind me, too close, but I didn't look. The next morning, the Polaroid was outside my door, my face scratched out, replaced with hers, eyes hollow. I locked it in a drawer, but that night I heard scratching inside, like nails on wood. The payment came with another message. She's closer now, Evangeline, he wrote. He asked me to record a voice memo, just me reading a poem he sent. Something about mirrors and lost names, and upload it to a dead website. $1,000. I did it. My voice shaking as I read the words, feeling like they weren't mine. The site was gone the next day, but my phone started playing the memo at random, even when powered off, her voice mixing with mine, saying, Evangeline at the end. The money hit with another message. She's speaking through you, Evangeline, he wrote. Last request was the worst. Stand in front of a mirror, hold a candle, stare at your reflection for 10 minutes. $1,200. Don't blink too much, he demanded. I did it, hands shaking as the flame danced. My reflection started to shift, my eyes turning older, emptier. She smiled, a woman who wasn't me, her lips moving silently, forming my name, Jocelyn. I dropped the candle and the room went dark, but her face stayed, glowing in the glass. The money hit with a final message. She sees you, Evangeline, he wrote. Every request made her stronger. I started seeing her everywhere. In mirrors, windows, my phone screen, even a spoon. A woman who looked like me but wasn't. Her eyes were wrong, too old, too empty, like she'd seen something awful. I'd blink and she'd vanish, but each time I felt less like me. My dreams were hell. I'd wake up choking, trapped in a house I'd never seen, her calling me Evangeline, hands dragging me into darkness. Sometimes I'd wake with bruises, faint marks on my arms, like someone had held me too tight. I tried to fight back. I stopped looking at reflective surfaces, taped paper over every mirror, and kept my phone face down. It didn't matter. My reflection found me in puddles, in other people's glasses, and in the shine of a doorknob. Once, I caught her in the window of a passing car, not just standing, but walking, matching my steps. Her head tilted like she was studying me. I ran home and locked the door, but my keys were gone the next day, replaced with that same strange key from the gifts, cold to the touch. Last week, I found a Polaroid in my mailbox. A woman who could have been my twin. Same jaw, same hair, dressed in clothes from the 60s. On the back, in faded ink, it read, Evangeline, 1963. My phone buzzed with a text from Collector J. He was sold too, Evangeline. Betrayed by her pictures. One last request. Check your closet, he wrote. I didn't want to, but my legs moved like they weren't mine. I opened the closet and there was a mirror I'd never seen. Full length, edges cracked. My reflection wasn't me, it was her. Evangeline, smiling, her eyes boring into mine. She raised a hand, pressed it against the glass, and whispered my name, Jocelyn, like she owned me. The air turned thick, and I swear I smelled those lilies again, sharp and wrong. I stumbled back, but the mirror kept showing her, even when I turned away. I smashed it and broke it into 100 pieces, but every shard still showed her face. My phone buzzed with a video from an unknown number. It was me smashing the mirror from an angle inside the closet, like someone was right behind me. The text followed. You are hers now, Evangeline, it said. He never sent the video he promised, the one of her. I don't know who Collector J is or why he's doing this. I don't know why my eyes are starting to look like hers or why my hands shake when I catch my reflection. I found out Evangeline was real, a woman from the 60s who vanished after posing for private photos. Her life chewed up by men who thought they owned her. The requests, the money, they were traps, tying me to her, like I'm reliving her betrayal through OnlyFans. I've moved again, but the gifts keep coming. The mirrors keep cracking, and last night, I found that scarf draped over my chair. The red marks back on my neck. I'm posting this from a library computer because my phone's not safe, my apartment's not safe, and I'm not safe. Has anyone heard of Evangeline from 1963? Should I go back and start following his requests again, or is it a trap? Could that key I keep finding mean something? If you've seen anything like this, mirrors acting wrong or names that won't leave you alone, please tell me what you did. I need to know what I'm becoming before she takes me completely. I'm not just me now. She's taking over, and I'm terrified she's already won.